Do you have a feeling that you've been learning English for ages, but your pronunciation doesn't get much better? My name is Marian from language studio Euphema, and today I'll tell you what may be blocking your way to better English pronunciation. As we all language learners know very well, learning a new sound or intonation pattern is not always a straightforward process. First, your brain needs to recognize that there is a difference between the sound you are trying to learn and a similar sound in your mother tongue. Now, as an adult language learner, you have a well-established set of sounds in your mother tongue. This set acts as a filter. So when you hear a sound you've never heard before, it is automatically replaced by the most similar sound in your native language. Now, that's basically why so many students replace the with d or th with s. This inability of foreign language students to hear foreign sounds properly is called phonetic deafness. So what to do about it? Now, when you are learning a new language, you just can't assume that all sounds are the same across languages. When learning new words, check also their pronunciation. In that regard, it is also useful to learn some basic IPA symbols, so you can also read pronunciation. People are often driven by various myths and truisms, and language learning is also rife with them, like that you need to live in an English-speaking country to learn the language well, or you need to start very early in life, otherwise you are doomed to failure, or you should focus on something more simple or easier instead of pronunciation, because pronunciation is unlearnable. Hogwash. Do yourself a favor and just ditch all those myths and preconceptions and false beliefs. Well, they're not founded on facts, and they just set your mind on a failure. You need to approach learning new sounds as if you knew nothing about it. Don't be afraid to start with pronunciation training from the very beginning. Don't be put off by what people say you can or can't learn. Every single time you practice pronunciation, you take a step towards sounding better, becoming more understandable, more confident, and that's what matters. You know, it's not just careful listening that your pronunciation depends on. Use also your eyes to understand how sounds are formed. Many English sounds need to be seen in order to learn how to pronounce them. Maybe you can make use of modern technology and media, because they allow you to rewind parts of a recording and say them out loud as many times as necessary, copying sounds and, more importantly, intonation. Remember that it's better to practice using just one part 10 times than practice with 10 different passages. If possible, it is also helpful to work with a movie you've already seen in your mother tongue. You know, you need to understand the material, because content and meaning are closely linked with pronunciation, especially intonation. If you don't understand what you're saying, your intonation will suffer. Also, bear in mind that you can't effectively practice pronunciation just silently talking to yourself. When I ask people how they work on their pronunciation, they often say that they watch English language movies or listen to English language audiobooks. Well, it's definitely great for language input, don't get me wrong, but it may not be enough if your goal is to improve pronunciation. You simply have to practice out loud. End of story. Period. Well, some people, however, feel embarrassed when they're trying to, emulate the English sounds, especially in real, person-to-person communication. So after all, it may not be your tongue, but it may be your emotions that stand in the way. Have you ever wondered why your English sounds so great in the shower or on the way to work? It's because you're relaxed. If you experience stress when speaking English, even a tiny bit of it, it's hard to relax. As a result, your speech organs get tense, they become harder to control, your voice quality deteriorates, and everything goes downhill from there. A lot of tension and good pronunciation never mix together well. You gotta learn how to relax. Learn to breathe from your diaphragm. Don't take the whole thing, speaking English so seriously. Work on lowering stress levels when speaking English, and your pronunciation will really flourish. Are you a person like me, living in a country where there are very few opportunities to speak English outside the classroom? Well, chances are that you will never acquire native-like pronunciation. But hey, native-likeness should not be your goal, and instead you should focus on more realistic goals, such as better understanding or boosting your confidence, broadening your vocabulary, improving your fluency, and as well, reduction of your accent. But here in this country, I have a feeling we tend to put grammar on pedestal. But even if your grammar is impeccable, people still may have a hard time understanding you simply because of your pronunciation. Well, this bias towards grammar is understandable because grammar seems to be more explicit, more rule-based, and easier to teach. As a consequence, many English teachers seem to downplay the importance of pronunciation. And I believe it also pleases English language learners because they are often reluctant to embrace this a little bit of chaos in learning languages, and they falsely believe that perfect grammar equals perfect English. Don't fall into the grammar trap. Pronunciation isn't any less important. Children are generally thought to be better language learners than adults. It is often claimed that they miraculously soak in language like sponges. Whereas this definitely applies to children fully immersed in a language, it certainly doesn't apply to children learning English as a foreign language in a non-English speaking country. In that case, children don't soak in English like sponges. But to be fair, adults seem to be a bit more disadvantaged by their stronger attachment to their native tongue and to their culture. And this attachment may be the thing that is hindering adoption of new sounds. The key here is to get comfortable with how you sound in English. It is important that your brain accepts your English self. For example, I often address my students using the English versions of their names, and I speak with them in English at all times, even outside the classroom. It may sound a bit silly, but it's useful to get comfortable with that feeling that you're somebody else when speaking English. There is a reason why people say that as many languages you know, as many times you're a human being. It also helps a lot if you record yourself and then listen to those recordings. Not only will it help you to spot your pronunciation lapses and mistakes, but over time you'll get more comfortable with hearing your voice in English, and it may help you learn new sounds and the language. From my experience, your English sounds much better when you exaggerate, even mock it. If you start making fun of, say, the American English, well, it actually sounds better. Don't be afraid to exaggerate. If you do, people will not perceive it as an exaggeration. They will just think that your English got better. Well, yeah, some people may make fun of you at first, and this is very often out of jealousy, but take no notice and just keep improving. Your accent, the way you sound, has a great impact on how other speakers, English speakers, see you and how they sometimes even treat you. Therefore, good pronunciation should be one of the top priorities when learning English. English language learners very often imagine that when they pay for a course, ideally with a native speaker, it is a gateway to success. Well, learning language is very much like going to the gym. Even if you buy 1,000 gym memberships, it won't get you anywhere if you're not willing to do some serious lifting. Stop outsourcing. Nobody will learn a language for you. No language school will grant you a gift of languages, and contrary to what is commonly assumed, no native English-speaking teacher is a miracle worker. Don't expect that good pronunciation will just, stick on you on the way. You've got to be proactive. In the language learning, more than anything else, it is your deliberate practice that makes perfect and ultimate difference. You are never too old. According to research, your brain never loses its plasticity to learn new things, including new words and new sounds. It may be a little bit harder for foreign language learners because, they have to learn a new language on top of already existing language in their mind, which very often causes negative interference. You might have heard before that, people say that children learn English easier or faster or better simply because they're younger, but that's not true. Lack of exposure, language input, motivation, time, personality traits, and quality of teachers, these are just a few factors that affect both adults and children equally. Don't be discouraged by your age when it comes to learning a new foreign language because it's far less important than you think. So there you have it, guys. Some factors preventing you from better pronunciation are your own creation. Some are inherent to a language learning process. But practice is indispensable when we want to teach our brain how to control and adjust the speech organs and produce desired sound. In my next video, I'll bring you a non-native speaker's perspective and some tips on how to change the position of your speech organs, how to sound better, and become more understandable. See you next time. Bye-bye.